Good to have you. How are you doing?
I'm doing very good. I'm excited to be talking to you.
I'm imagining that it's quite difficult campaigning for election within a COVID era. How are you coping?
Yeah, it was difficult initially because you don't get to do all the traditional things that you normally do. But I'll tell you, the being able to go virtual and do Zoom meetings has actually been a blessing in disguise because with Zoom you can do a whole lot of meetings. You don't have to travel from one meeting to another, so you can do a lot more. And then you can talk to people like yourself who are not in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and all over the place. And so it's actually enhanced our ability to reach a broader and wider audience.
Fantastic. All right. So when you won the primary, you tweeted that 100 years ago, this wouldn't have been possible. But today,
Right,
because of all of you who exercised your rights to vote and voted for change, this is possible. Change is
right.
possible and change is coming.
Yeah.
What does this statement truly mean for you?
Yeah, well, first of all, the 100-year reference was specific to where we are in Tulsa, Oklahoma, all right? And so next year, 2021, will be the 100-year anniversary of the Tulsa Race Massacre, right? Tulsa, Oklahoma in the early 1900s had the most prosperous African-American community in the whole of the United States. It was actually known as Little Africa, all right? But unfortunately in 1921, May 31st and June 1st, over the course of 2 days, white supremacists and folks who were envious and jealous of this success burned down this community, all right? And I live right now in this community in North Tulsa, which is predominantly African American, but it's no longer the most prosperous African American community in the nation, right? It's high poverty, it's low income, but we're trying to turn the tide, right? And reclaim that legacy. So for someone like me who lives in this community to be representing the Democratic Party as the nominee is a historic occurrence here. And so I wanted to celebrate that fact and inspire and give people hope that change can happen.
Great. So how did your dream of wanting to go to Congress begin for you?
Man, it really even wasn't a dream. It kind of just happened. The word dream means a lot in my family because my parents came from Ghana, West Africa, and they came specifically chasing the American dream, all right? And they sacrificed, they worked hard. They weren't able to fulfill that dream, but their son has had access because of their sacrifice to opportunities, right? To go to great schools, to be able to be the first in my family to graduate from college, be able to go to law school, the oldest law school in the nation. And so that has meant something to me, but I realized that the dream can't just be true for me if it's not true for others as well. And so I've committed my life to ensuring that opportunities available to more and more people that they can fulfill their dreams. And so that's what has shaped the decisions that I've made. So after law school, I decided to become a kindergarten teacher. I said, send me to where the need is highest. And that's when they sent me to Tulsa, Oklahoma, right? I hadn't been to Tulsa before. And I just embraced the community here and I worked hard to try to be the change and make a change for others. And in my career and in my service, I have arrived at this point where I feel like running for Congress is the next best way I can really serve that cause and make a difference.
So at what point did it become clear to you that you wanted to run?
That's a good question. Well, being a teacher and living in Oklahoma and working my butt off to ensure that my kids could be successful. And at the end of my second year of teaching, I was named Teacher of the Year at my school site, right? But it didn't feel like it, right? So even though my kids were successful on paper and they said I was doing well, my kids still lived in a community that did not have a grocery store, all right? They still lived in a state that was 49th in the nation in education funding and teacher pay, right? And we were losing all our best teachers to other states. They still lived in a state that incarcerated more men and women than anybody else in the nation, all right? And all these issues affected my kids. So I realized that no matter how hard I worked in the classroom, if I didn't have a chance to touch these broader issues, my kids and their families and the community that they lived in was still gonna suffer, all right? And so that's really when I was like, I need to step outside the classroom, right? And I need to learn more about policy. I have the law background. Let me learn about what kinds of policies will help the students and the families that I'm working with, right? And so that's when the idea started to circulate and bubble in my head.
And when it became clear that you were going to compete, how did you sort of assemble your campaign team?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, you know, a lot of times what ends up happening is, as a newcomer to politics, there are already these gatekeepers, right? The folks who've been doing this for a while, and they're the ones that you go to and ask permission to run, you know, and they have to give you their blessing. And I bypassed all of that because I understand that democracy, right, is one person, one vote, okay? And it's about a government for the people, of the people, by the people, right? And so I went to the people and I said, hey, this is who I am. These are my values. This is my story. This is the work I've been doing. And now I want to step into this role to help us build an America as good as it's promised, to help us build an Oklahoma that works for everybody, right? And tell me your story. I'm willing to listen and we can work together to move forward, right? So I did that and I bypassed all those gatekeepers and people actually listened and were interested, right? And so we started to make some noise and people were energized and excited and they wanted to be a part of this, right? And so it just built up organically that way. And I believe like attracts like. If you put out the right energy, you'll attract a reciprocal energy. And so we were able to attract that. And before you knew it, we had a campaign and we were off and running.
Great. So at what point did it really hit you that, hey, you could really win this?
Man, well, you know, I'll tell you this, because I'm in Oklahoma, okay? Oklahoma is the reddest of red states in the sense of, you know, red being Republican, blue being Democrat. And it's the only state where in both 2008 and 2012 elections, Barack Obama did not win a single county, all right? Didn't win a single county. And my district is pretty diverse in the sense of it's urban and it's rural, right? It's mostly white, but it's also Black, it's Native American, it's Hispanic. But when I took a trip to the rural parts of the district, I was expecting, right, maybe they're not gonna accept me. Maybe I have to, you know, speak differently, you know, not really speak my mind, you know, and pander. But in fact, when I went to those rural areas of my district, those folks embraced me, right? More than anybody else. And they allowed me to be myself. And they asked very great questions and frank questions. And they were some of the most passionate people I've ever met. So I was like, oh, wow, like my story actually resonates over here too, all right? So that's when I was like, hey, there's something going on here and we can actually, you know, make this thing happen. And I shouldn't just, you know, disqualify myself just because I'm Black, just because my parents are immigrants, right? And so yeah, it's amazing what happens when you decide to be genuine and authentic and tell your story.
Right. So what are the key issues that you're campaigning on now that you've won the primaries and you will be facing the incumbent?
Mm-hmm. So, well, the first issue really is about what kind of leader we want to elect to represent us, all right? I have demonstrated so far in my career to be somebody who's committed to public service, to go from law school graduate to a kindergarten teacher, and not a kindergarten teacher in a rich school district, a kindergarten teacher in an urban school district where we are last in the nation in teacher pay and funding, right? And I'm about serving the public good. I'm about selfless leadership and service. The incumbent is somebody who is more interested in serving his own interests and serving the interests of the rich, right? And since being in office, he's only been there for one term, but all he's done is become a Trump sycophant, right? He echoes whatever Donald Trump says. And for instance, you know, we just went through this coronavirus epidemic. Congress passes this Paycheck Protection Program, PPP program, stimulus package to help small businesses. Well, he owns McDonald's franchises, which are not really small businesses to begin with. And he goes ahead of the line to get about $2 million, right, in government loans for his business. Meanwhile, small businesses owned by Black people, brown people, even white folks who are having a difficult time accessing these funds can't. And the funds run out because people like him, who are supposed to be looking out for the little guy, is looking out for himself, right? So I always say leaders eat last, right? So maybe it's not illegal to do what he did, but it is immoral and it is not good leadership. If you're a leader, we elect you to put the interests of the people ahead of yourself, right? So you make sure that people have eaten and then you eat after everybody else has eaten. That's good leadership.
Right. So what is your top priority when you go to Congress?
Yeah, so the question that I ask myself is, what do the people want, all right? And my answer is the people want an America as good as its promise, okay? The founding documents of America are what really make us a great nation. The fact that we said, you know, all men are created equal, all right? And they're endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, all right? So we all deserve an opportunity. You don't have to be born into a rich family or a family with a good name. If you work hard, you can access opportunity, all right? So my platform is based on what are the policies we need to put in place to give more and more people opportunity to fulfill their highest potential. So for me, it starts with education, all right? And we have to fund our education adequately. We have to pay our teachers well so that we can attract the best teachers and ensure that the great teachers not leaving our state. We also have to start educating kids very early, right? Early childhood education is very important. I was a kindergarten teacher, so I know that if you wait until they're 4 or 5 years old to start, you know, enriching them, you're already behind, all right? And so there's that. Also, health and economic security is another huge thing, right? My mom came here at the age of 23. She worked 2 jobs. She was taking college courses, breaking her neck, right? Stressing. And at the age of 39, because of all that, she suffered a stroke, right? She spends about 4 months in the hospital, can't afford the medical bills, goes bankrupt. She can't work because she suffered a stroke. So now she has to return to Ghana, right? So that family can help care for her. In the richest nation in the world where we preach hard work and the grind, you shouldn't go bankrupt just because you get sick in pursuit of your dreams, right? So we ought to have universal access to healthcare, right? And that helps everybody, right? Because if, let's say, you have healthcare when you come out of college, you now know that I can take a risk and go start a business, right? Because what ends up happening is a lot of graduates go get a job because their job will give them the benefit of healthcare. All right, so I'm not going to take the risk to go start a business because I need the benefits of the healthcare. Well, that hurts our economy, all right, because now we have less businesses starting, less jobs being created, all right? So it all works together. We also we have a minimum wage here of $7.25, and it's been that way for a long time. You cannot live on that, right? And in America, you shouldn't have to work 2 or 3 jobs just to live and survive, right? So we have to raise the minimum wage to a living wage, all right? So those are some of the things that are, you know, the big priorities for me. And then obviously, you know, we have justice and equity issues going on right now. We have the Black Lives Matter movement, and I live in a community that is predominantly African-American. And we witness how police are more present in our communities than they are in other communities, even though crime is happening everywhere. So we need to stop over-policing Black and brown communities, right? We need to legalize marijuana, not because we just want people doing drugs and getting high, but because in America, marijuana, which is legal recreationally in 11 states and medically in 33 states, has been used to put a lot of Black and brown people in prison. So there are a lot of Black and brown people in prison right here in Oklahoma for marijuana use, right? Or selling marijuana, right? Meanwhile, in other states, people are selling it and it's legal and people are using it. Like, that is not moral, right? And so we need to fix that. If we don't fix that, then we're gonna continue to have these racial tensions that we continue to see happen in our nation and community.
Great. So let's go to Ghana. What's your relationship with Ghana like currently?
Yeah, you know, I mean, I am a son of Ghana, right? I was born here in Alexandria, Virginia, but both my parents grew up in Ghana, were from Ghana. My family is from Ejusu Basiansa, right? So not far from Kumasi. But my mom was born in Accra, grew up in Accra. When I was 2 years old, my mom was a single mom. She was working, she was going to school, so she sent me back to Ghana. All right, so I lived with my aunt and my grandma in Ghana from age 2 to 10. So spend those 8 formative years early on in Ghana. All right, and then I returned there after graduating college in 2008. And then again in 2014, my best friend still lives there. I was best man in his wedding. So I returned there in 2014. And then in 2017, after I got married, I brought my wife to Ghana so she could, you know, see where I grew up and whatnot. And so we plan to make it a yearly trip if we can, so that we just had a daughter. We want her to come back to Ghana and see, you know, her roots. And so yeah, I love Ghana, and I love, you know, jollof rice. I love fufu and peanut butter soup, you know, and, you know, red and fried plantains, you know, so yeah.
Okay, great. I mean, last year, Ghana sort of made a bold statement and put out the year of return, where it was to welcome, let's say, the diaspora back home. And on the heels of that, and just a year later, the whole world rises up again for the cause of the black man per se. What is your opinion of creating opportunities back home for people in the diaspora to sort of come back and perhaps even fit in and settle as well?
Yeah, I think it's a great thing, right? Because if you're Black in America, you feel like you're a person without roots in a sense, right? You know, you're not necessarily, you didn't originate from America, but you also don't really have a direct connection to Africa. You don't even know which country you came from, right? And I think there's a quote that says, it's hard to know where you're going if you don't know where you came from, right? So I do think there's a spiritual experience that occurs when an African American returns to Ghana, returns to the African continent, and, you know, gets to return right to this place, you know, where their ancestors walked through the door of no return, and you can now re-enter, right, and defy those odds. And then I think people in Ghana and governments need to give people the opportunity to do that. And then they can make that decision for themselves. Once they come back, do I feel like this is a place where I can see myself building a future for myself and being a part of the economy and helping to, you know, grow it and, you know, being a participant? Or maybe it's just a place that I want to take trips to, right, and bring my kids to, you know, every so often, right? And I think different people will make different decisions based on what suits them. But I do think it's a responsibility for nations like Ghana to give people the opportunity to do that.
Fantastic. We will end here by wishing you all the very best with your campaign. And in November, you have some few months to go, actually. So we wish you all the best. And we will be retweeting your stuff and making noise from back home to re-echo your campaign as well. So all the very best in the elections. We hope we have you in Congress.
I appreciate it so much. The enthusiasm that I've experienced from, you know, my Ghanaian brothers and sisters has been just a pleasant surprise and frankly overwhelming. So I'm just very grateful, and, you know, I am a champion running the race for us, and hopefully it inspires other people to reach for their dreams and, you know, do the unthinkable.